Well, we still got some people joining, and it's great to have everybody coming online. So I'm just going to kind of give some folks some information on what we're going to be talking about today, and then passing it over to Ashley. So I think I'm going to get started right here with these slides. The first thing I want to check is whether or not folks are able to hear me through the webinar, through the presentation platform. You should be able to hear me, although all of you are muted, just in case anybody's got barking dogs or coughing colds in the background. There is a button over here on the right-hand side of the screen, underneath all of like my name and Ashley's name. There's a check mark and a red X. If you can hear me okay, will you click the check mark right now? Okay, we've got some green check marks going, so I'm thinking that most people are able to hear me okay. Now, throughout the presentation, I will be accessible via email or phone. I'm going to put my phone number in the chat box, which I'm just going to talk about next. Here are some things that you can try out if you are having trouble hearing me. Let me put my office number here in this chat box if you're still struggling after trying these things. Okay. And if you're looking for that chat box, it's over on the right-hand side below everybody's names and below the green check mark that you used earlier when I was asking about audio. There's a little box that says chat. You can click the arrow right next to the word chat if you can't see text, and you should be able to see text in there that says from me. There should be a note now that says office and my office line if you are having problems. And I'll be able to pick up that phone line in just a moment once I'm done with these introductions. So as we're going along, we have everybody muted, but at the very end, we'll unmute folks so that you can ask some questions out loud if that's easier. However, feel free to share your questions in the text box during the presentation if that's something that you're able to do easily. We have the opportunity to be able to share the questions with everybody so that everybody can see what's being asked. Just be sure to select all participants in this menu that is right to the Send To button. So just a quick little background, the regional partnerships part of the University of Minnesota Extension are hosting this session. And this is me here, in case you're wondering who this Karen is that's been talking about this upcoming online presentation. And the regional partnerships are involved with hosting the session because we've been working with a number of rural grocery store owners on different projects. It began back in 2014 when we took a group of grocers down to the Kansas State Rural Grocery Summit, which really got some great project ideas going. And 2015 led to us doing a survey of rural grocery store owners with over 250 stores across the state. This led to real opportunity to see areas for improvement and advancement so that grocers can stay open and viable around the state. And, you know, really recognition that grocery stores are an important food access point for people around the state. So we found that out through the course of the survey and summarized it in a series of fact sheets about that survey that are on our website, and continued to do projects, especially around fresh produce handling and incorporation of locally grown foods, which you can see in the upper right-hand corner here with some of our staff. So that's a bit about where we're coming from and why we're interested in hosting Ashley today to talk more about this new grant opportunity. One of the things revealed in the survey was a real challenge with equipment age and store infrastructure aging, and hopefully this opportunity might be a fit for some stores and other food retailers to address those issues. So with that, I'm going to take it away, Ashley, and double check my email and phone line for any questions or troubleshooting issues that people might be having. Once again, thank you for being here.
All right, thank you, Karen, and thank you for hosting today's session. And thank you to the Regional Sustainable Development Partnerships for hosting us today. As Karen said, my name is Ashley Bress, and I administer this grant on behalf of the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. Just a little bit of very basic background information. During this round of grants, we have approximately $150,000 available. The maximum award that we are able to give this round is $50,000, and the minimum award is $2,500. We set that floor to ensure that grantees receive enough investment in return to make it worth their time to fill out the application and to handle the reporting requirements going forward. Proposals or applications are due on April 19th, 2017 at 4:00 p.m. That is a very, very sharp cutoff. We are not able to accept any applications that come after that time. You're able to submit proposals online at a link through our website. That website also has a lot of other valuable information on it, including the full request for proposals. And we'll take a brief look at that website later. It's also worth mentioning that the RFP, or the application, is available in both English and Spanish. Retailers who are involved with the selling of nutritious, affordable, and culturally appropriate foods are invited to apply for this grant. Our conversation today is going to focus on the grocery stores and other small food retailers, such as corner stores and convenience stores. We're also focusing on those retailers who are applying on their own behalf. If anybody would like to talk about applying on behalf of one or more stores, please let me know and we can chat about that offline. We have had a few questions about the definition of small food retailers. Food shelves are generally not eligible because the food is not for sale. We really are talking about the retailers who are selling food in this case. CSA farms or community-supported agriculture farms and pick-your-own farms can be eligible. They will need to abide by all the same eligibility criteria as the other traditional retailers. Retailers must also be located in a food desert or other low or moderate income community. These requirements and the data sets that we use to determine areas are set in statute. This is not a determination that was made by the Minnesota Department of Agriculture or me as the program administrator. We'll talk more about what it means to be in a food desert or in a low or moderate income community in later slides. Eligible purchases include pieces of equipment that will help you sell more affordable, nutritious, and culturally appropriate foods. The most typical example, or the example that we work with the most often, is that of a grocery store that needs a produce cooler, but there are plenty of other pieces of equipment that we are able to assist with. Things such as retail display coolers and freezers, storage coolers, shelving, occasionally mobile food trucks, infrastructure at a farmer's market, such as the tables, maybe the tents, if a cooler, or maybe a shed. We're also able to help with the architectural work. For example, if you need to move a wall in order to have a place with the cooler, we might be able to help with that. And we also help with the installation. So if you need a plumber or an electrician, we're able to help there. To be eligible for this grant, you must be located in a food desert or in a lower moderate income community. We're going to give a quick example of how to determine this using data from the U.S. Census Bureau and comparing it to the list that we have on the website. So at this point, I am going to attempt to share my screen with you. If you can give me just 1 second to get that flipped over, I would appreciate that. Okay, so right now, I'm hopeful that you can see that I am on the Good Food Access Program Equipment and Physical Improvement Grant webpage that we have on the Department of Agriculture's website. On this page, we are going to scroll down to the American Fact Finder website. We have a link to there. We're going to go ahead and click on that. We need to click on Advanced Search. You don't always need to. Sometimes it'll bring us directly to this page. Today we needed to click on Advanced Search. And then we'll click on Geographies. Move over to the Address tab. And then for purposes of this example, I'm just going to put in the address of the Minnesota Department of Agriculture here in St. Paul. Click the Go button. This step can be just a little bit slow. In a few seconds, it should be popping up another screen. There we go. That shows about a third of the way down or half the way down on the results. It says Census Tract 428 in Ramsey County. That is the census tract that the Minnesota Department of Agriculture is located in. You want to take note of the census tract that you live in. So I'm going to remember Census Tract 428 in Ramsey County, and then I'm going to go back to the grant program's website, and I'm going to scroll down and click on the Good Food Access Eligible Areas page. This is the page that's going to all of the census tracts that are eligible to participate in this grant program. So I'm going to scroll down until I get to Ramsey County, go all the way down to Census Tract 428. It does appear on this page, so it means that it is eligible. We are in an eligible area. However, because there is a no in this first column, it means we are not located in a food desert, but the yes in the second column indicates that we are in a low or moderate income community. So keep that in mind, that we're not in the food desert, but we are in the low or moderate income community, and take note of that. At this point, I'm going to go back to our original slides, and we'll keep on going. Okay, and then we're going to talk very briefly about how to actually apply for the grant. You do have two options of how to apply. The first, and by far the most preferable, is to apply online. We do have an online system that I'm going to very quickly walk you through. However, if you cannot apply using the system, you may email a copy of your proposal to me. We don't recommend this because then we have to enter all your information, and using the online system also ensures that you really do answer every single question. All applications are due on April 19th at 4 o'clock, and now we are going to go back into the system, we're going to go into the online application system. So I'm going to share my screen with you again. And once we're back onto the Good Food Access Program Equipment and Physical Improvement Grant page, we can scroll down and hit the Apply Online button. At this point, as a new applicant, you will need to create an account. That's a fairly simple process. I mean, if you can buy something on Amazon and create an account there, you'll be able to create an account here. It's going to ask you about a dozen questions: name, address, CEO's name, that type of information. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and put in a fake applicant's name. And then we'll take a look and see what that looks like once we get inside. And I apologize, I'm on a different computer than I normally am, and the keyboard is a bit different. So my typing skills might be a little subpar today. So once you log into the system, you're going to see the applicant dashboard. This is going to show any previous grants you have applied for with us. You can see that our fake store owner here, Bobby Apple, applied for a farm-to-school grant a year ago. But today we're going to go up and we are going to click on this apply button. This shows all of the grant opportunities that the Department of Agriculture currently has open. We are going to scroll down to this third one. It says Good Food Access Program Equipment and Physical Improvement Grant. And then we're going to scroll down and click on the apply button. At this point, you get the application that you're going to have to fill out. You can scroll down and you'll notice that we have a lot of checkbox questions, yes, no questions, and then there's some further down where you can enter a little bit of information such as your project name or your business name. There are also some down here where you have an option to upload. Certain questions you have to actually upload a file. We usually give you a file to download first, to edit, and then re-upload by clicking the upload button, and then you would upload just as if you were going to attach a document to an email. There's also some questions in here where you have the option of either uploading a file for us, or you can copy and paste it into the text area. All right, now going back to our slides, and we can always talk about this a bit more. We will continue with the application. So at this point, we're just going to walk through each of the major areas of the RFP or the application. So the first section is called Applicant Information. From here, I just took a screenshot of the first section from the paper-based RFP. This section is just going to ask you for that basic information such as name and business name, mailing address. I want to know who the contact information or who the contact person is for the grant. But this should all be pretty basic information. The next section that we're going to ask you to respond to is referred to as eligibility. The statute that governs the program set forth 5 requirements that all grant recipients must abide by. In the application, we'll ask you to check yes or no to each of the following 5. Keep in mind that these are very abbreviated versions of those 5 requirements, but I put them on here just to give you a taste of what they are, but you should still go back and look at the full RFP for the full requirements. First, you must accept SNAP, formerly known as food stamps. You also have to apply to accept WIC, and if approved, you need to accept WIC. You have to comply with all data collection and reporting requirements set forth by the Commissioner of Agriculture. You need to promote the hiring of local workers, and you have to allocate at least 30% of retail space to selling food, except for small food retailers. We have one more question in this eligibility section where we are talking about the project start date and the project end date. We are only able to fund pieces of projects that begin after a contract has been executed. Realistically, it might be mid-June, early July before the contracts are executed, but we will be talking more about that timeline later. So therefore, your project start date should probably be July 1 or after. We'll always work with you as much as we possibly can, though. All projects need to be fully completed by September 30 of 2018. In this example here, Bobby Apple is saying that his project is going to be done by September 30 of 2017. And again, this is your best guess of when you're going to start and when you're going to end. And then you need to make up a name for your project. Our online application system requires that all grant applications have a project name. So just make something up. It doesn't need to be creative. Just make it up. We have one more question on here where we ask if we may share a summary of your project with program partners if your project is not funded. In general, all grant proposals that are funded by the state become public information. That is, we can share the information contained in the proposal without further consent. However, proposals that are not funded are generally not considered public information. We would like your permission to share your unfunded proposals with program partners and technical assistance providers. You don't have to answer yes here, but we would like it if you did. The next section of the grant is referred to as Overview of Applicant. Again, this is just me some of those basic things about your business. We're going to ask you your business name. It might seem redundant from the first section, but it really isn't. We're also going to ask the address of the business. We're going, this is also where you're going to put in the census tract. So here, Bobby put in census tract 428 in Ramsey County. We also ask about the most recently completed fiscal year's revenue, and we give you 4 choices as being not in business, less than $50,000, between $50,000 and $750,000, and greater than $750,000. Bobby here chose $50,000 to $750,000. We also ask what type of entity you are, and we really just want you to pick the best possible option. You get to choose between grocery store, corner store, convenience stores, farmers market, mobile food market, a retail outlet operated by emergency food program or a food hub, or another small food retailer. And we just ask that you tell us what that other type is. And finally, we ask if you are located in a food desert or in another low or moderate income area. This is information that we got by using the Census Bureau data and then going back to the program website. So in this case, Bobby inserted food desert, but I think it was actually in a low or moderate income area. And then we ask for the changes in retail square footage before and after the project. This may or may not change. Okay. The next section is called Proposal Summary. Basically, this is where you're going to give us a brief description of your project and your goals. We give you 1,200 characters to do this, but it doesn't necessarily take that many to do it. Basically, you want one paragraph. If you were in an elevator with somebody, what would you tell them? Or if you wanted me to speak about your project to somebody, what would you want them to know? So basically it comes down to what are you going to do, what do you hope to accomplish, and how is your business going to change as a result of your project. So Bobby put together a very brief summary here. It is actually only about 494 characters, if I remember correctly. Basically, Bobby just says he's going to install a Sanda cooler to increase capacity of fruits and vegetables. Their current cooler is broken and it's inefficient, and so they can't sell many, and in fact, they're probably having to throw away some fruits and vegetables. So they're hoping to be able to offer better and more fruits and vegetables, and maybe be able to offer some from the farmer down the street. So again, 3-4 sentences just explains who you are and what you're trying to do. We have one more question under proposal summary where we're asking for your total project costs. So how much is your project going to cost you, as well as the amount of grant money you are requesting. We do not require a match out of any applicant, but it is voluntary, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. In this next section, we call it Business and Organization Overview. This is basically where we just want you to describe your business's or organization's capacity to implement some project. So for example, here you might talk about how long your business has been around. Have you been around for 6 months? Have you been around for 20 years? Are you maybe a 4th generation grocer or business owner? You might also talk, especially if you're newer into this arena, you might talk about other food-related experience that you have. You might also talk about the organizational strengths. Maybe you just have a fantastic front office who will be able to handle the reporting piece of this project. And we'll just talk about those things that make your business shine. We are going to give you 2,400 characters here. That is a pretty lengthy area, but you don't need to use all of it. Just tell us what you want us to know. There's a second question in the same section. It says, in fewer words, describe your current capabilities to provide nutritious, affordable, and culturally appropriate foods. So this is kind of a continuation of your business's resume. You might talk about your retail infrastructure. What types of coolers do you have? What types of freezers do you have? What types of shelving do you have? What makes your business able to sell these good foods? You also might want to talk about relationships you have with distributors. Are you working with a local distributor who is helping you get apples in from a farmer? How is your distributor able to meet your needs? You might also talk about the relationships that you have with local producers. So you might talk about a relationship that you have with the apple farmer or with the lettuce farmer, whoever that is, or with the jelly producer. You may also want to talk about community support. Maybe you have just a fantastic relationship with a local public health office or with your economic development agency, or maybe you're just doing really cool things in the community. You should tell us about those. Okay, the next section is going to be referred to as investments. Many grant programs require some type of match. In other words, some grants require that for every $1 of public investment, the recipient or the business also has to put in $1 or 50 cents or $2. However, in this program, there is no required match. However, you can voluntarily offer a match. For example, if you want to buy a produce cooler that costs $20,000, you might offer to pay for 50% of the costs. You might also volunteer the services of the electrician or the plumber who is necessary for the installation. These might already be on your staff, or maybe you have a good relationship with a nice electrician down the street who is going to volunteer his or her time to make this project better for your community. Or you could talk about how you have marketers who are ready to showcase the cooler and increase sales of fruits and vegetables. The bottom line here is that we want our funding to go as far as possible, and we want you to talk about how you can make that happen. All right, I'm going to take a quick swig of water. So I've been talking a lot, and then we are going to talk about the work plan. Okay, we do also ask for a work plan. Sometimes people will refer to this as a timeline. Show us that you've thought about how you're going to implement the project once we've given you the go-ahead. We want to know the action or the step you're going to take, and the time frame you think it might happen, and who is going to be responsible for ensuring that really does happen. A key thing here is keep it realistic. The reviewers can see when work plans are way too ambitious. We would much rather be presented with a realistic plan. We understand that certain seasons of the year work better than others. Outside construction projects are usually better in the summer, but maybe you're located in a high tourist area and doing a project in the summer just doesn't make sense. It might work, in that case, it might work better for you to install a cooler in January. We get it, just be realistic. This is one of those sections that is uploaded to the online application. We give you some template so you can download it, edit it, and then upload it again. The next section is the budget table. We want to see your budget and how you developed the budget. This again is one of those sections that is uploaded to the online application. We even give you some template. So again, you can download it, edit, and upload it again. You do not need to know the exact make and model of the equipment that you're going to purchase, but you should show that you've done your homework. One thing that we have found is that you get better estimates when you're working with a dealer rather than just going through an online store. The reviewers will notice if your estimates don't seem appropriate. There's a good chance that if two people are buying nearly identical coolers, they will notice when one of them costs $20,000 more than the other one. So take a few minutes, call up the equipment dealer, and get a quick estimate. It shows that you're doing your homework. So on your budget table, you might say, Dan at the cooler store. And you may also include the installation or construction costs that are necessary for use of the equipment. So in this case, Bobby Apple called up Joe's Electrical and Bauer Plumbing and found out, how much it might cost to have that cooler installed. You also just want to make sure that the total costs that you have here equals the total project costs that you have located earlier in the application. All right, the next section is budget narratives. They should be beefy. Budget narratives are usually one of the most important parts of your application. If I am reviewing applications, the budget narrative is where I spend most of my time. Okay. In the budget narrative, we're going to ask you about 5 questions. So this is one of the longer sections for you to do. Basically, we're going to ask you, how will the funds be used? And we want you to justify each major expense. For example, if you have a produce cooler in there, tell us what cooler you're going to buy, at least as well as you possibly can. Again, we don't expect that you know the exact make and model, but you probably have some idea the size that you want, if it's going to have doors on it, or what it's going to be like. Just tell us what you can. And you should do that for each major expense that you have. I mean, you don't need to do that, for the screws and the nails, that type of stuff that you need to buy. But you should tell us for all those major costs. For each of those major costs, you also want to tell us how that expense is going to help you sell more affordable, nutritious, and culturally appropriate foods. So, in this case, Bobby Apple talked about how the new cooler is going to help them sell more fruits and vegetables and not just the hardy ones, the things that are a little bit more sensitive. We have 3 more questions in this section. The first is usually a pretty quick one. We just want to know how you're going to pay for any ongoing maintenance of the equipment. The last thing that we want is for you to get this big fancy new piece of equipment and then have no ability to maintain it going forward, particularly because we don't pay for maintenance costs or operating costs. So just throw in a quick statement about that. You should also give us a little bit of information about why grant funding is necessary. Like in this example, Bobby talked about how they just recently had to make some pretty big expenses that depleted their cash reserves. Just talk about how you wouldn't be able to do this project if public support was not there. And finally, it's generally the state's policy that we do all of our grants on a reimbursable basis. That means that you don't get paid until you do the work and you pay for it, and then we'll pay you back for it. However, we realize that's not the perfect situation for this grant. So you are able to ask for up to 50% of the grant award up front. However, you need to justify why that is necessary. Okay, one of the next sections of the RFP is the outcomes table. So you're proposing to purchase a produce cooler, but now we want to see how the cooler is going to help you increase sales. So we're going to have you complete a table that shows your sales in the most recently completed fiscal year, in the first year after your project is done, and then again in that second year thereafter. This section has about 12 different options on it. I only put a few of them on here, but we do want you to fill all of the table out. So it's going to cover everything from meat and cheese and other dairy products and probably eggs and grains, as well as like fruits and vegetables. And then finally, we have another question on here. It is one of the last questions on the grant. And this program does exist in the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. So we do have a pretty vested interest in increasing the sales of Minnesota grown and raised produce. So if you're going to buy your apples or your tomatoes or something else from a local producer, this is your time to tell us about it. This will also help you out in the evaluation stage of the grant, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So again, like if you're buying something from somebody local, make sure you tell us about that.
Hi, Ashley. Let me know if there's a chance where you'd like me to break in and ask you a few of the questions that have been posted so far.
You know what? I've got like one more section left on the grant, and then let's do that after this letters of support slide.
That sounds perfect. Thanks.
All right, thanks. All right. The final section of the RFP, of the request for proposals, is letters of support. You do not have to submit any letters of support unless you're applying on behalf of another applicant or on behalf of another business. However, they're strongly recommended. You might think about getting letters of support from maybe a public health office that you're working closely with, especially if it's on like WIC or SNAP issues. If there's a local economic development agency that you've been working with, get a letter of support from them. You also might consider getting a letter of support from a local producer or distributor who is going to benefit from your project. If the state is not going to be paying for the entirety of your project, but you're going to get financing from your bank, you might consider a letter from your financial institution. Even if you're not having to get financing, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get a letter from your bank showing that you do have the reserves in a checking or savings account in order to pay for part of the expenses. Again, they're only required for applicants submitting an application on behalf of another organization, but we highly recommend them for everybody, and they're really going to help the reviewers give you full points on the evaluation. And with that, I'll be happy to take some questions. There's some things I can talk about and some things I can't talk about, and if there's ever anything I'm not quite sure about, I'm going to ask to get back to you in writing afterwards.
And I'm recording the questions, so that'll help with that too. The two questions that are similar that have been asked are from farmers and about farmers using this funding. One asks if they are a farmer interested in selling products of the farm in our non-food desert but low-income county, are they eligible to apply? And the second one asked if funds could be used for farmers growing vegetables to help them get their produce to market, such as funding for washing and packing stations, hoop houses, a truck, etc.
Sure. I'm going to tackle the second one first because that one's a bit easier actually. those producers who are trying to get their things to market, you know, and they need a cooler or a freezer or a washing and packing shed, whatever that might be. This is not the appropriate grant for you to apply for. You should be applying for the Agri Value Added Grant Program, which can help you with some of those costs that happen after the produce has been harvested. So while we can't help you get it out of the field, we will help with many of the things that happen afterwards. For that program, you will want to contact my colleague, Ann Couge. That program is not currently open, but it's open twice a year, and each time is usually funded at about $1 million, and we pay for 25% of costs. So that's going to be a much better fit for you. On the other side of things, it does get a bit more complicated, and that's one of the things I might need to go back and think about a little bit more. But in generally, it should be the farmer's market that is applying rather than the individual farmer. Okay. If you have more questions about that, feel free to email me about that.
Okay, we've got two questions about the clarification of how you determine if your location is eligible for this particular grant opportunity. Is that something that you'll be covering soon in the upcoming slides?
No, I was not planning to cover that any further, but if you have questions, I'm happy to try to answer those.
Yeah, specifically, one of these questions was, could you clarify if an applicant needs to be in a food desert census tract or serving an underserved population, how would an applicant demonstrate those alternatives? Name census tracts in service area?
Yeah, so this is going to be, your eligibility is generally based upon where your store, let's say, is located. You're going to want to look at, you're going to want to determine where that census tract is. And that would be using those same steps that we went through to find like where the Department of Agriculture is. The one exception to that might be a CSA type of operation that will need to demonstrate that where they are delivering the foods would be eligible, or that would be an eligible area. But in general, the retailer would need to be located in the eligible area.
Okay. Well, I've got two additional questions I'll ask now, and I'll save the other ones for after. So if people haven't heard their question asked yet, I will be still collecting them. The last two are quicker questions before you move on. One is, can the online application be completed in multiple sessions?
Yes, I saw that question. I'm sorry I didn't respond to it right away. But yes, that can be done over multiple times. The system is supposed to automatically save before you close, but if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the screen, and in fact, you know what, I still have this page open, so we'll go ahead and share this. Just give me 1 second. So right now, hopefully you can see that I'm back into the online application, and if you scroll all the way down, you'll have the option to save application or to submit the application. If I was to hit the submit button right now, it wouldn't let me do it because I have all these things that I haven't completed yet, but I could still hit the save button there, and it will save the responses that I already have in there.
Great, thank you. And the last question, that should be a shorter one for you, is there a restriction on whether equipment purchased must be new, or can awards be put towards used equipment? Did you hear that all right, Ashley? Oh, Ashley, I'm seeing that your phone line is muted. We're having trouble hearing you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, now.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm not sure how that happened. So yes, used equipment is totally fine. The only time that ever gets tricky at all is if you're buying something used, let's say off of Craigslist or from like a friend down the road, we will request an invoice for those purchases as well, so be prepared for that. We're usually pretty good about calling people up if you can give us their phone number to verify, but to the extent that we can get it used from a reputable dealer is better.
Thanks, Ashley. I'll be still collecting questions as we go on and collect them for the end.
Sure, that sounds great. I have maybe 2 more slides here, and then we'll take the rest of the questions. So you've gone to all of this work. You've completed your full application. You should pat yourself on the back. But the other thing that you should do before you hit the submit button is to go back and compare your application to the evaluation criteria that are outlined in the full RFP. That full RFP is available on the website, and the evaluation criteria are going to tell you exactly what we are looking for and how much each criteria is rated. This is the exact thing that the reviewers are going to use as they evaluate each application that we receive. On this slide, I put a very, very brief overview of what each of the criteria is, but it should give you a pretty good idea of what we're looking for. For example, we want to know that your project has long-term sustainability, that we're not just going to make an investment and it's not going to work out in the next 6 months. We wanted we'll evaluate on your capacity to implement some of the project, so that kind of goes back to those resume portions that we were talking about. We want to hear about your commitment to state and local health initiatives, so that's where one of those letters of support from one of your partner groups might work out really, really well. We also want to see your work plan, and we are going to judge it on whether it actually seems realistic. So again, just give us what is realistic there. We also want to look at the budget and any cash match that you're able to offer. We want to know that, yes, that you really can do that, and that, yes, you really have done your homework to get some of the best estimates that you can. And again, this is the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, and we do have a commitment to increasing sales from Minnesota egg producers, so we threw in a few points there. But we do highly recommend that you take your application and you take the review criteria and just kind of look at them side by side and make sure that you gave the reviewers enough information that they can give you full credit on all of those. One of the other most common questions that I get is, so what's the timeline on this? So all applications really are due April 19th, 2017 at 4 o'clock. I really do have to have them at 4 o'clock, not 4:02, not 4:01 in 30 seconds. I'm sorry if it ended being a bad day, but we cannot accept anything after 4 o'clock. Depending upon the number of applications that we receive, then I expect it will take probably 4 to 6 weeks before we can let you know if you are receiving a grant. We understand time is of the essence with these, so we really will get them out as quickly as we can. It is a long process, so we are hoping to be able to notify everybody by late May. In June, our goal is to get all the contracts signed with those who are going to receive grants. Work can only begin after a contract is signed. We cannot pay for anything that happens before we get those signatures. And then finally, all work has to become completed by September 30 of 2018. And then once you do the work and you pay for the work, then we'll be able to get you reimbursed for that.